You see it with some of the bigger clubs or the first leagues or probably even the Euro leagues. You'll see the fan sections, and there's one guy who's just leading the chants, and he's not even looking at the game. His back is to the game. And that always impresses me. It's like, why would you? I know you love the club, but you don't even get to watch the game.
Welcome to another edition of the Beautiful Work Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Krikorian. Each episode, we feature a special guest from all walks of life and ask them to explore the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the trials, and the triumphs of their chosen field. Writers, musicians, coaches, business owners, athletes, and everything in between, we peel back the curtain to hear their stories, to walk their paths, to find out how they breathe life into their beautiful work. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this edition of the Beautiful Work Podcast. My guest today is Patrick Carney. Pat has over a decade of experience playing professional basketball in Germany. And besides that, Pat is one of my closest friends. Him and I played together at Chapman University back in the day. And then Pat took his talents to Germany, and he's been playing there for over 10 years. And he's got a ton to share with us about a life in Europe and what it's like to be a professional athlete in a foreign country all these years, and just his journey to where he is now. And he's had a great career coming from a small college and making a life as a professional player. So you're going to get a lot from his story. Before we do, quick announcements. I've announced it on the past few podcast episodes. My new album, Grandeur, is coming out in just about a month now, as this is being released, January the 18th. My fifth record, Grandeur, is a 16-song record, and it's taken about 4 years to make, and there's a lot of people behind it, and I can't wait to have it released. The 2 weeks leading up to the album release, after we come back from the New Year's Day break, I'll be doing a special 2-week podcast series where we will be posting a podcast daily, and each day will be with a different person that helped make the new record Grandeur come to life. So the engineers, the artists, the promotion, the artwork, the songwriters, all the people behind this album. I will be interviewing a lot of those folks and bringing their careers and their stories to light. And so you get to know a little bit about the people that were behind this new album and helped make it what it is. And so I'm really excited about that. For those that are just joining this first podcast, thank you so much for joining. We have a newsletter that you can sign up at dankrikorian.com and follow along with all the podcasts, music and whatnot news. And Dan Krikorian, DANKRIKORIAN.com. You can sign up as well. You can hear all the past podcasts with some really great guests on there and see the show notes and read about them and hear about them. And so we hope you head over to the website. All right. Can't wait to bring you Pat's story. So without further ado, let's get to the show. Patrick Carney is a 12-year international professional basketball player, spending the entirety of his career in Germany. Pat hails from Southern California, where he attended and starred at El Toro High School being named an Orange County All-Star his senior year, and was one of the top scorers in all of Southern California as well. Pat and I met in 2003, our freshman year at Chapman University, where we played 4 years of basketball together for the Panthers. Pat received numerous all-region and all-academic awards in his illustrious college career, and remains Chapman's career leader in points scored, free throws made, and ranks in the top 5 in a number of other statistical categories. After receiving his degree in accounting from Chapman, Pat began seeking out opportunities to play basketball abroad. He found that opportunity to play for a small club in West Germany, and without hesitation, he turned down an accounting job offer and flew to Europe to embark on a journey and begin building his career. Pat has worked his way up through the ranks of German professional leagues, earning a variety of MVP awards along the way, and is currently playing his 5th straight year with FC Schalke in Pro A, Germany's 2nd highest professional division. Pat is here today to talk about forging your own path, the power of a strong mental mindset, living in a foreign country, and fans that bang a drum in the stands for the entire game. All right, I'm joined now by Patrick Carney. Pat, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I have to say, as we were getting ready for the podcast and getting our mics and everything synced up, this is the first time where I've had someone had to figure out the instructions of the microphone in German.
Yeah, the part of the everyday battle I face here over in Germany. Translations.
But it sounds so. Luckily, you guys got it figured out on your end.
Yeah, my better half.
Right. So, I guess we're all sort of jump off with the interview with Germany, and obviously that's where you are now, where you've been for quite some time. But if you could take us back to the first time you got off the plane in Germany, when you had just decided you were going to play professionally, and what did it feel like when you stepped off the plane and you were kind of embarking on this new journey right after college?
Yeah, I mean, I can still remember it pretty well. First I got off the plane and I was excited. It was something I wanted to do for a long time. So, I knew I was going to miss home and my family, but it felt like something that I had to do, something that I wanted to do. So I was looking forward to it. Been looking forward to it for a while. It wasn't probably until like the few days after, then it kind of starts to set in, and like season didn't start right away. So I had a few weeks of downtime of nothing going on. And that's when I kind of hit me like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm in a different country. I don't understand anyone. I was living with a really nice host family and they were great, but you're still an adult. They're an adult. They have their lives. They can't sit around and entertain you for, 12 hours a day. So it was a real shocker. And, I had to take really about 2 weeks and just keep reminding myself of why I'm here, what I want to do, what I want to accomplish. And once you got past those 2 weeks, then of course basketball started. And then just like anything, you find your rhythm and your routine of this life, your new life. And
right.
Then it's 12 years later and you're doing a podcast talking about, first week you got into Germany.
Right. You've reached the mountaintop.
Some would say so.
Now, those first 2 weeks, did you have, I wouldn't say like regrets, if that's not probably the right word, but did any part of you want to come back thinking, hey, I made a mistake, let's come back and just kind of get into normal flow of life here in California?
Yeah, no, I never had any doubts or that I made a mistake. It was just really that, yeah, I mean, all my friends and family were back home, and then, I came out at like the end of summer, so, there's a lot going on. We were young at the time, and like that, I just missed those interactions, and I was instead here in Germany really by myself, still getting to meet people and not really knowing anyone. So that was kind of, I guess it just got lonely and bored at times, but I never, like I said, I always kind of just kept my eye on the prize, and it's really at the end of the day, once I, was able to look past the boredom and missing home, I realized like why I'm here and what my goal is. And that just kept pushing me on. So
for those that don't understand how European professional basketball works and is structured, could you walk us through a little bit about how you got over to Germany, how you became, a professional basketball player, and sort of how the leagues are structured in a sense, because the NBA is obviously much different over here. And so if you could explain that a little bit. Yeah, well, I'll kind of start at the beginning of, I went to Chapman, a small Division III, and when I graduated, I knew I wanted to play basketball still, but, like anything, I had no idea how to get over there. I knew I wanted to, but I didn't know anything, and I actually contacted a dental coach who had some experience placing guys overseas, and had, I think, played and coached a little bit over in France as well. And so I just took the initiative, emailed him saying, I want to play. I don't know how though. What would you recommend? How can you help me? What advice do you have? And he basically, I met with him, but he also sent me an email and just outlined it like, here are the leagues, here are the countries, and here are the leagues that are a good place to start, like a good platform. And he said, just put together a resume, email them, send them video, offer to send them video. And, no real secret, just like anything, you got to just work. And so it probably took me 6 to 8 months of just emailing clubs, trying to send video if I could, offering anything, just so they would take a look at me. And most of the time, no one would write back. And if they did, it was, usual, no, our team's set, or we're not looking for anyone at this moment. And it was just, I think eventually, like within, like I said, 6, 8 months later, I think there was 2 clubs that offered, like, you can come over. And one of them was, I took the one that was in the highest level. They were both kind of lower levels for Germany. And it wasn't much pay, but they said they had a host family for me. I'd have to coach a couple teams, but they'd like to have me on my team. And then that was it. Then I said yes, and then I was starting to look at flights and get ready. It was kind of happened. I mean, it took a while to get to that point, but then when it did, it happened fast. If I remember correctly, at that time, you were sort of debating because didn't you have a job offer at an accounting job offer, California, that you had to kind of wait for the start date, and so you were looking at basketball in between? Yeah, exactly. I mean, looking back, maybe it was a sign or I got lucky, but I had to finish up one more class at Chapman, so I graduated, but with the intent that I'd have to do one more semester to finish up my degree. And during that time, then I got hired by an accounting firm, but I had missed like the cycle of their new hirees, let's say. So they were going to have me come on later after the busy season, after tax season, because they were already starting to train their new hires for the busy season. And then they said, okay, you can come on. I think it was like in December or something like that. So I knew I had this window to basically find anyone to take me for basketball because I didn't want to do accounting. Right. And so, then I think I might have been June or July. This club wrote me saying that I could come. And then I called up the accounting firm, said, sorry, but I got the chance to play basketball, and I was gone. And do you ever look back on, that decision and think about where your life might be if you just stay with that job, or, it didn't work out for you to come over here? Like, do you ever think about that decision?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't, but I mean, I definitely made the right decision. I only look at it at the sense of a financial standpoint when every summer I'm unemployed and without a contract and having to talk to new clubs. And then I just think if I just took that accounting job, I'd have at least a steady paycheck and some money. But other than that, I don't think I look like I'd be much happier doing accounting, or, I'm glad where I ended up. That's for sure,
right,
to say the least.
I know you and I have talked about this, at length, whenever you're home and whatnot, and sort of that decision of giving up. We both have, business accounting degrees from Chapman, and I did work in the mutual fund industry for a year and a half, and then, decided to leave it and go into coaching and music and whatnot. But just the struggle of, pursuing something that you really feel passionate about, but in the beginning it's difficult to sort of make ends meet, being for me, being a JV basketball coach at Costa Mesa and playing open mic nights. I wasn't rolling in a Mercedes to those events. And you as well, first starting out, it's giving up a lot to do that.
Yeah. Like I said, I think we've always discussed, like, you have such a short window to really kind of pursue your dream. Or so in my case, like, I could in my 20s or right out of college was my chance to play basketball. I couldn't, when I'm 30 after working as an accountant or in a business, say like, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm going to go try to play basketball now. Like, it's the other way around. At any point I can find, quote unquote, a real job or an accounting job, or go to the business sector. You can do that at any time. That job's always going to be waiting there for us. It was more so, now is the chance that if I want to play basketball, if I really want to pursue it, I do it now. And the longer I wait, the chances are it's never going to happen.
Right.
And so that always drove me and motivated me and made me confirmed to me that I was doing the right thing, that I was making the right decision.
Right. And so on the subject of basketball itself, what is it specifically about the game of basketball as opposed to some other sport that you played growing up? But what's it about basketball that, you have such a deep passion for and want to put in hours and hours and hours of work to develop your craft? Is there anything specific you can point out about the game itself?
It's a good question. How to describe it? I mean, I don't know. I can't say specific, but everything about it, to sound corny and stupid, I mean, every game's different. Every play is different, offensively and defensively. Like, nothing's ever the same, or nothing really ever repeats. And I really appreciate the work and the training you have to put in. And then when you see the results on the court, to me, there's just nothing like that. The high that you can get from the success of all the hard work. I mean, with that being said, too, though, then there's also times where basketball feels like it's the hardest sport in the world, and I'm out there ever wondering, like, how the hell did I get here? Like, I can't do anything right. And in a strange way, then that motivates me. Then, like, I got to work, and I can change it. I can control your own destiny, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoyed when I was little, kind of it's the one sport you can do by yourself. And I always enjoyed that. That you can just go in a gym and you can just shoot. You can always work on stuff. You don't need a whole team to practice. You don't need someone throwing you the ball. Like, you could always, if you wanted to play basketball, you just needed a hoop and a ball, and you were set. And I don't know, that's what drove me to the game. And from there, then I just always wanted to keep working at it. Like, I had to every day play. I don't know why. I don't know what drove me or what, but even when I was young, before I knew I wanted to continue to play, like, I just knew I had to play. Like, it would eat at me if I for one day didn't do something for basketball.
Has your, love of the game, has it changed throughout the years? Like, the things you love about it when you were 14, 15, is it changed now that, you're in your early 30s and playing professionally? Do you look at it the same way, or how do you see it now?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I think it's changed because I've matured. I think, when you're young, everyone just wants to score, and that's why you play. Like the glory of getting your 2 points on one possession.
Sure.
And now as I get older, team success always definitely been important, but now it's just like the process of coming together, a group of guys, and trying to compete for one goal, and building success and good habits as a team. Like I appreciate that more. I appreciate the journey, probably because I'm at the end of my career. So you get, you start to appreciate the details of the game and, how you're going to defend or the plays, and not so much like, I just want to get buckets today. Like,
yeah,
like that's all I care about. Like, I want the glory of shooting the shot. Now to me, it's just important when I'm out on the floor. Like, I just want to be part of a successful 5-man unit. And if I'm scoring, that's gravy. But if not, if I'm just involved, if I'm making the pass or making the screen, or just, that also is now just as satisfying to me as when I was, 14 and NJB, and I just wanted to make a shot.
Right. And as you've gotten to this point where you see sort of and feel the more subtleties of the game, do you think it's allowed you to play this long because your kind of love has changed throughout the years? So, you're not just chasing the same things. And so now, you can enjoy a 10-point, 4-assist game just as much as a 30-point game earlier. Yeah,
definitely. Absolutely. It also gives me more peace of mind because, very few people can score at such a high level like that. So it's more realistic. And especially as I get older, your goals change and some things are less obtainable than they were.
Right.
But yeah, I think, honestly, my goal now every game is that I want to feel like I contributed to the success of our team. And whether that was scoring no points or getting rebounds, but, I judge it as far as if I felt like I went out there and I played hard, our team was better with me out there on those minutes than worse, or they were like, I wasn't hurting the team, then
sure,
I can feel content.
So getting to your team, maybe explain a little bit about the club that you currently play for and where that's located in Germany, if you could. Yeah, no problem. So right now I am playing for a team called Schalke. We're playing in the second league of Germany, the Zweites Bundesliga, the Pro A. We're located on the west side of Germany, near the Dutch border, so to speak. And so our club, is very well known in Germany and perhaps a little bit globally because we are affiliated with the soccer team, the Schalke, FC Schalke, which is a Bundesliga first league soccer team, and they'll compete in the Champions League this year. So we're kind of like the ugly stepchild, the basketball program, but we still have their brand logo on our chest. That's where I'm at the moment. And so, describe for us a German Pro A League basketball game, a home game for you guys. What's the atmosphere like? What are the people like? How is it maybe different than someone going to say a Chapman men's basketball game? Yeah, for sure. We have a good fan base. We don't play in a huge arena by any means. We play in a nice gym though, for sure. And we have good fans. Again, being affiliated with the soccer team, we have a homegrown fan base that they just come out because it's Schalke. They love to support the club, we'll take it. That's a good benefit for us. So they're very dedicated. The big thing with all European clubs, as opposed to in the States with the fans, is they like to bring drums and just bang the drums for 40 minutes, which is really cool when you're the home team, and pretty annoying then when you're on the road and just hearing nothing but drums. But that would be the biggest difference. But our attendance is nothing huge. I think we're about 800 to 1,200 fans a game, which is good size. Basketball is not
it's a good size. It's a popular sport in Germany, but
Okay.
it's still soccer far, far, far away. We're a distant third, maybe.
Okay. Now, the crowds, because I've myself, I'm a huge fan of European basketball and try to watch as much of it as I can, and I'm always really intrigued by the fan bases, and they seem to be, they love their local teams, and you tune into a European basketball game, and that drum is just going the whole game everywhere.
Yeah.
Does it ever get annoying for you? I know you said on the road, but even at home, is it just like, I don't know. I'd imagine it's way different than something here in the U.S.
It doesn't get it'll get annoying when you're on the road, and especially when you're down and we're getting, losing big. But at home, it's not annoying. I'm just always impressed that, and God bless them, I appreciate it, but that they would want to come to a game and for 40 minutes, my job is drums tonight, and I'm going as hard as I can on these drums.
Right.
You see it with some of the bigger clubs or the first leagues or probably even the Euro leagues, but especially you'll see the fan sections, and there's one guy who's just leading the chants, and he's not even looking at the game. His back is to the game. And that always impresses me. It's like, why would you? I know you love the club, but you don't even get to watch the game. You're too busy organizing chants.
Right. How would you like to be the girlfriend or the wife of the guy who's the drummer at those things? Where you first start dating, and it's like, hey, I've got some Schalke tickets tonight, and then you show up to go to the game. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, I play this drum for 40 straight minutes, and you're going to sit next to me the whole time.
I know. My only guess is that you're running in the same circles if you're meeting people like that want to come to the Schalke game. So
that's true. That's true.
Maybe that's how they met drumming. But yeah, it would make quite a first impression if you didn't kind of know their backstory.
Right. So it's just it's great. I love watching it. I love seeing the fan interaction, and then it's so different because you go to a professional game here, and it's just then I know the Lakers and Clippers are NBA teams, but you've got your high class wine and dine seats in the front row, and all that, and so I would imagine it's pretty fun at times to play in that atmosphere for you.
Yeah, definitely. For the club, the club really wants a connection with the fans, because obviously, we're not at that level where we're making revenue off of TV deals or sponsorships, so
Sure.
We want the fans to come back. And so that's another thing that's also different in Europe and the States, is that after the games too, the teams, you'll go and clap to your fans and give them high fives. Like the fan team interaction is important. I appreciate that. I think it's pretty cool. The fans did come out, and for 40 minutes, some guy banged some drums, and they were into the game. And so, it's always after a game, win or lose, you go to your fans and you thank them for coming. And I've learned to appreciate that.
Sure. Builds a little bit of the community feel, I think, between your team and the fans, and because it,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is tough to go out to a game. You got to spend your night and go support. And when you're around town, do you run into people that kind of know you're on the team? You go in the grocery store and they know who you are in the area.
Yeah, every now and then we will. Especially with this club, this will be my 5th year with them now too, as well. So, and I don't live in the city anymore. I live in the next city over, but every now and then and in the past when I used to live there, there'd be, it doesn't happen very often, but they'll come up and say hello and how, when seasons start or when's your next game. But and that's always cool.
Yeah. When I went, when I visited you a few years back, I was impressed. Outside the stadium, they had like a 6-foot life-size cutout or poster of you outside the stadium. That was, Do you get to keep that at the end of the year? Do you have it somewhere in your living room?
No, unfortunately, I was too young and not to realize those things would be important later in my life to get them. So that's somewhere with that club.
Yeah.
buried deep in their cellar somewhere. I don't know.
I'm sure your mom and dad might like that. Put it right by the door, entering the Carney household.
Yeah. Yeah, just make sure my presence is always felt there.
So getting to German basketball, you've been there for so long now. The youth leagues that you've coached in and seen, do you see that the Germans teach the game of basketball and just, I guess, teach skill work in general differently than Americans?
Yes and no. I think the biggest difference I know, even before the teaching or the coaching starts, is that in the U.S. we see basketball, it's more accessible. So we see there's more games on the TV, and so I think that just kind of puts a very basic understanding of what basketball is, or how people move or shoot, or they may not understand like the technique, but if you see something over and over, then it gives you at least a little base knowledge. And we're here, basketball is very rarely on TV. It's always soccer on TV. So these kids come in to the practices really having, they're like a completely blank slate of just no idea how the movements work within basketball, or really what movements you want, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think right away they're starting, that's like the big disadvantage. Like you have to really, really start from the ground up. You would in the States as well, but just like really as far as they just don't have a clue, so to speak, of why you're doing things or what it's supposed to look like. And I find too, they're also they get not hung up, but in Europe they start really with the technical skills of like running and jumping. The coordination skills are taught a lot more here. Where in the States, it's more basketball skill work that started earlier. Here we work on like just jumping techniques, running, and body movement, which has its positives and negatives, but it's also not really court work, which for me, I think that's the most important, is just getting the ball in their hands and developing skills. And I think then that's those factors kind of slow them up as far as individuals, where maybe the U.S. kids are more individually talented, and then the German or the Europeans aren't, but then they start building the teamwork and playing within a system. And so they're then start more of that and not just like breaking your guy down one-on-one, which I find what I've seen with the youth here in Germany is what they also lack, like the skill work and the development just to go one-on-one, especially at youth levels. You can't just incorporate some sort of tactics. It's very hard to teach tactics if they don't have the ability to drill the ball with their left hand or make a crossover, change of direction, and beat a defender. So that's what I've noticed.
Sure. And it's different in Germany than here in the U.S. and actually in Europe in general with the way they structure their clubs, right? Because there's no college basketball in Europe like there is in the U.S. It's basically, and you can explain it better, but kids are in a club, and then they go through that club, and potentially they could become professionals in that club if they're good enough at some point. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, nothing's school related here. It's all school and sports are separated as far as your team sports. And so I find that at a young age, I find it a disadvantage, because then you're limited by how much gym time you can get. So you're only seeing these kids 2 or 3 times a week, for most clubs. Now, if you're your top level clubs, the Alba Berlins, the Bayern München, then you have more resources to get these kids in a gym more often. But for a club like us, 80% of the clubs in Germany, at least, they're only seeing these kids 2 to 3 times a week, 3 times a week for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And at such a young age, when most of the development's taking place, it's hard to really develop them. It's going to be a lot on the kid then to love the game and want to improve himself outside of just your normal practice, because you just don't have enough time.
Right.
So that's why I would favor the school system, because, if you're in high school or you're in college, like you're seeing these kids every day, and you can still work with them. Obviously NCAA rules limit it, but you're still allowed to get them in a gym. Like they still can develop on their own and have the resources to keep working. We're here with the club system. Sometimes it's hard. And again, it goes back to basketball is not a huge priority in Germany. So if it's a football club, then obviously I think it changes. Your resources are much more readily available. I think also the coaching is better because, again, there's more of a future in coaching football or soccer than in coaching basketball, financially speaking. So you're going to get also better coaching in a soccer club here than in a basketball club here in Germany.
Okay, that makes sense. What are some of the more difficult parts of being a professional athlete overseas that someone might not think about?
I think just the time. It's such a long season, especially for, if you're in the second leagues, the lower leagues, let's speak, or if you're in a first league but not playing any international competition, it's only one game a week, so you're practicing a ton, and you have morning practices or weightlifting and then night practices. It's a lot of practicing in between just to get to one game a week, and so you got to have a lot of mental toughness just to continue to build good habits through the season and keep yourself prepared. And and obviously then cope with being away for the holidays, birthdays or your friends and family. Like it's a real mental challenge as well as physically, of course, that comes with basketball. But, you got to be mentally solid to get through a season and be successful.
Sure.
I find there's a lot of people with talent that are much more talented than me, but if you don't also have the right mindset or the mental fortitude, then you can easily just as fail as someone who's not talented at all.
Right. And that's been kind of a theme of a lot of the guests that have been on this podcast of they're all talented in their own right, but they all hit on the fact that, they just, in some instances, they just wanted it more than other people around them. And they were able to put up with the long hours or, not making a lot of money at first or whatever it was, because ultimately they had a goal that they wanted to get to and they just kind of pursued it through it all. And as other people fell by the wayside, a great quote somebody once told me is like, if you sit at the table long enough, eventually you'll get fed. And it just seems like that's, you keep showing up, you keep doing your thing, and eventually good stuff kind of happens.
But I completely agree. It's just building good habits and just sticking with those habits, and obviously then self-belief. But it's obviously a cliche there, but there is no secret. It's just you work and you build good habits and you have the right mindset, and then eventually you'll get your break and you'll be prepared for when that break comes to take advantage of it.
It's 6 a.m. on a hot Friday morning in 2007, the summer before my senior year of college. And Pat Carney is banging on my bedroom door in our apartment, making sure I'm awake and getting ready for our morning shooting and lifting routine. Damn him. While I curse under my breath and clamor for another 10 minutes of sleep, Pat has been up planning and preparing for our extended morning workout. Pat Carney has been and remains one of my closest friends, and since the beginning, he has possessed an unbelievable willingness to work and hone his craft day and night. It remains a driving reason behind both his collegiate and professional success as a basketball player. Besides our common interests and being teammates in college, as we graduated and moved on, another commonality emerged. In our early 20s, we both left or declined great job opportunities to pursue a more unbeaten path. Pat to play basketball in Europe, myself to play music. And over the years, as both our careers have grown and changed in different ways, we've talked about the need to seek out chances, to persist through difficult times, and keep chipping away at redwood-sized dreams. And Pat has stayed remarkably consistent in his pursuit and his ability to focus on the long-term success while steadily growing year by year through both the career wins and losses. To reflect, as John Steinbeck once wrote in a letter to his son, "Don't worry about losing. If it's right, it happens. The main thing is not to hurry. Nothing good gets away." I want to pivot a little bit in our conversation and talk a little bit about more your experience being, an American living overseas after, being here for so long, and kind of what that's done to you personally and what you've seen. So maybe could you talk a little bit about what it's like to be an American living in Germany and making a career in a sport in a language that you aren't familiar with?
Yeah. First of all, it's, as far as being American living in Germany, there's never been a problem. The German people have been, great. I've never had an issue with any of them, or, in fact, they've been more than willing, let's say the biggest issue with the language, to speak English with me, which has also hurt me in learning the language, because they're so willing to immediately switch to English when they hear me struggle to speak German, or they can tell I have an accent. But they've been great, and I met so many good friends, and obviously I've met my girlfriend as well, who's German, and we've started a life here. So I can't say anything bad or have any negative experiences as far as, because I'm an American, living in Germany.
But is it different? Was there a big kind of culture shock or cultural change that you had to go through that first year or two to kind of assimilate into German culture? For sure. The most noticeable one is that on Sunday everything's closed here, and to this day I still can't get used to that. But that's just their routine and their way of life. Like, nothing's open, so it's and come from California, where obviously you have the weekend, and of course the weather is usually always pretty nice. Like Saturday, Sunday, those are the days. It's the weekend, you can do stuff and be outside, and then you come to Germany, and of course now we have real winters, which I had never experienced. So whether that's a culture shock, I guess. But then on Sundays everything's closed, so the weather's crappy and everything's closed, and you're just staying inside. That still takes some getting used to for me. One thing I've always thought about is, it seems like Europeans in general have a little better grasp on work-life balance. And I don't know if that's the same in Germany, if there's, you have to take a certain amount of vacation time, where the US, you don't, anything like that.
Yeah, Germany does really well in that you do get a lot of vacation time, but I find that the Germans then, I find they work only then for their vacation time. So when they have to work, they work. They're good workers. They work hard, but then they don't, it goes back to then everything's closed Sunday. So they don't do anything in the weekends because they're still working. And then when they go on vacation, they take vacation, but it's like then they've disappeared from the world, because they just no, I'm on vacation. I'm not working. I'm not around. So it's just all their, I don't know. For me, again, growing up from California, people work, but the weather's nice. So the weekend, you still can do things, and it's still a chance to, long weekends or short vacations or something, like still take advantage of your time off. Where here, I feel like they're just waiting or biding their time till it's their vacation, and then
I see.
Then they're gone, and it's like flipping a switch. But when they're here, it's like no, work, and then okay, Saturday you have time, and Sunday there's nothing to do because nothing's open. Then back to work, and I don't know. That doesn't fit my personality, I guess, coming from Southern California.
Yeah, that's much different. I can agree on that. Political leanings aside, like, what has it been like viewing America over the past 3 or 4 years as, the U.S. has kind of had some deep political changes and way of life. What's it like being in Germany and kind of watching from afar as this takes place?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess.
Do you feel connected to it at all, or do you feel kind of like you're not really a part as much anymore, so it doesn't, affect you as much?
I definitely still feel connected. I mean, I'm American. I'm proud to be an American. Like, so, that'll never change. I wasn't like super politically active or such into it when I was in California. So like my level hasn't necessarily changed more or less since I've been in Germany.
Sure.
So, I always have a good kind of, I don't know, baseline of what's going on or politically, but I guess it hasn't changed too much, because like I said, it just wasn't so active, or, like me leaving Germany has changed my habits as far as what I follow or pay attention to.
How did Germans in general, you feel, view America or Americans? Are they pretty pro-America, or is it kind of mixed bag?
I mean, they think we're nuts right now. I mean, I think it goes back to individually. I think they like Americans. I've never, even the last couple of months, I've never had again any other negative interactions. So on an individual basis, they have no problem. I think then when they see the whole and kind of landscape as it is right now, I think, it's very different for them coming from the German system, where it's still pretty social, and healthcare and the gun control, and then
sure.
Yeah, they're wondering what we're doing.
Yeah. Hey, what's something that you wish that you knew, 10, 12 years ago about being a professional basketball player that now?
I mean, I guess if I look back at it, what I know now, maybe I never had an agent. I don't think coming out of college I really could have got an agent, like had an agent that was going to help me, because, I came from a small college, and really my only chance was going into lower leagues where you don't need an agent. But as my career kind of advanced and I realized I could move up to higher levels, maybe trying to pursue some representation to help broaden my reach of teams I can contact, or, and legitimately talk to, and not just send an email and they'll be like, who's this guy? No, thanks. That would have helped. I always had the work ethic, so I knew as long as I continue to work, good things were going to happen. But I guess I also was able to achieve my Irish passport. Maybe if I had gotten on that earlier, it could have helped me. But I don't know. I'm always a little dubious of this question, because if you change one thing, then how does it affect things now? And I'm happy with the journey I took, how I got here.
Yeah. Were there any, I guess, another way to, phrase that question, like, were there things that you really worried about or stressed about your first or second year into being a pro that you just don't worry about anymore because you realize it's not worth your time to worry about?
I don't know. I don't want to come off sounding arrogant, but I don't, not a whole lot. I mean, if there is, it had to be small details that I've either forgotten or I can't recall. I think I had, what helped me along the way is I started for such a low level club that I got to come in and be the man right away. Just mainly because the level wasn't that good, but it was the only place I could start. So I think that helped me build habits, because then when you get to the bigger clubs or in the higher leagues, now that you're an import player, they need you to produce. And I had experience with producing at the lower level, so I knew the mindset that I had to have when I came to then the higher leagues, and that now it's important that I'm not just a German player, I'm their import player, they're American, and they need me. I'm here for a certain reason. So, obviously that doesn't answer your question, but that also prepared me for the pressure of that I have to produce. But I've had then 2 or 3 years knowing, like, okay, it was definitely a lower level, but I can score, I can do this. It gave me the confidence I need to be successful when the time came to, with the pressure on.
You mentioned this earlier, that you feel like getting towards the tail end of your professional playing career. What do you envision are the next steps for you in the years to come?
I think I would really like to stay within basketball, and preferably coaching. If it's not coaching, whether working with a club in Germany or trying to from management standpoint, but I'd like to continue to be in basketball. This is what I know, it's what I love and what I want to continue to do. Coaching would be at the top of the list if I had my choice.
And do you have some potential leads right now? You feel like after you retire at some point that there's places you can get your foot in the door?
Yeah, definitely with the club I'm at now. I've been here for 5 years. I feel like I've built up a good reputation and some, good connections. So that would be where I'd start for sure. I also then, you have to get coaching license in Germany. So I recently got the B license, which is the second highest. So that also helps me in pursuing a coaching career, kind of gets me foot in the door, so to speak, to have this B license. But I would definitely start with Schalke. That would be kind of my first step in pursuing a coaching career.
What do you envision, what do you feel like is maybe the most valuable investment that you made so far in your career or your life?
Yeah. For me, and it obviously took me a while to get to this, but just investing in yourself, I think, is really the most important. Always continuing to learn, whether it's learning something new or learning within your field. So for basketball, trying the off season, always to learn something new, a new way to train or something with your diet or adding a skill. But constantly learning, I think, is the best investment you can make in yourself, and will only further you as a human and make you a better version of yourself. And whether, so for me, whether it's getting a coaching license or trying to learn German, or, I'm also trying to do an online kind of study, take a course in business, sports business. And, so it's just, I think, investing in yourself, you're the most important commodity, yourself.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that gets back to what you were saying earlier as you've gone through this, 10, 12 year career professionally, and you've kind of changed your not changed your mindset, but just the game gets different to you as you get older. And if you would have stopped learning at some point or stopped trying new things, it would have gotten stale pretty quickly, and probably you would have got burnt out a lot sooner.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
My last question, is there a good book that you've read recently that you would potentially give as a gift to someone?
I'm not a huge reader, unfortunately. I think the last book I read was a kind of a comedic, on a comedic take on basketball history, and looking at basketball through a different lens.
Is it Bill Simmons?
No, it was Shea Serrano. He writes for Bill Simmons.
Okay.
Yeah, and but it was just an entertaining book. That was the most recent one I read, but no deep philosophical or self-help book I could recommend.
That's all right. I'm sure during the season it's difficult to find, time. I have a hard time reading like lengthy novels myself. I'm more of like a article, short story, podcast listener. Just fits more into my schedule. So
that's sports articles, sports podcasts. That's kind of my cup of tea as well.
Well, Pat, this has been just a really great sort of look back on what you've done, and then also I think really informative for people that probably always think about what it's like to play a professional sport in Europe or another country, and your insights into a lot of this stuff was great. So thank you so much for joining today and for lending your time and your thoughts on a variety of subjects. I'm going to leave you with the last word. So anything else you'd like to add before we go?
First, thank you for having me, Dan. I appreciate you taking interest in what I do and wanting to interview me. It doesn't happen very often. No real deep parting words, man. Just, there's no secret, man. You just gotta work. That's all.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the Beautiful Work Podcast featuring Patrick Carney of FC Schalke. To find out more about FC Schalke and Pat, you can follow them on their main page website, schalke04.de/basketball, or head over to my website, dankrikorian.com, and I will have links to all of Pat's information and the team information for you to follow as well. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider signing up for our newsletter. You can also find that on the website. Today's music are the two songs Lila and Words that will both be released on my upcoming record Grandeur on January the 18th. Before we end, as always, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, keep making that beautiful work. We'll see you next time.